This week, two countries technically at war took a rare small step toward easing tensions. We take a closer look now at the historic maritime border agreement between Israel and Lebanon. On the open sea, where borders aren't always clear and are often contested, this week, Lebanon and Israel, two nations technically at war for decades, signed a breakthrough agreement brokered by the United States. President Biden called it historic.
It took some real guts, and I think it took principle and persistent diplomacy to get it done.
The countries agreed on how to divide a critical stretch of the Mediterranean Sea rich in fossil fuels. For Lebanon, it could be an economic lifeline. Its currency is nearly worthless, poverty and hunger are pervasive, and joblessness is at record levels.
I truly believe and hope that this can be an economic turning point in Lebanon for a new era of investment.
At issue, a 300 square mile section of sea that is home to two major gas fields. The two nations agreed on a permanent border that would allow both to get royalties from any energy exploration in the offshore gas field that straddles the boundary. But even as the deal was signed, factions within Israel's parliament called it illegal. And on land, tensions remain. Hassan Nasrallah leads Hezbollah, whose political wing controls a majority in the Lebanese parliament.
The results are a very big victory for Lebanon, to the state, the people, and the resistance. The state and those responsible in the Lebanese government were very careful not to take any small step that may hint to normalization.
Israeli officials acknowledge it's an incremental and pragmatic step.
This agreement strengthens Israel's security and our freedom of action against Hezbollah and threats to our north. There is rare consensus in the security establishment regarding the necessity of this agreement.
As questions remain if this small degree of peace will extend beyond the sea. To unpack this historic deal, I spoke with two reporters about what it means in their home countries. Neri Zilber is a journalist based in Tel Aviv. I asked him how Israel stands to benefit from this deal.
Well, there are a few benefits. First and foremost, it's a diplomatic agreement with an enemy state. So when the Israeli Prime Minister Yair Lapid gets up and says it's a historic deal, it's true. It's true in that sense that Israel and Lebanon are still officially at war. But primarily it provides Israel a certain percentage of the potential future Lebanese natural gas field, around 17%. And also primarily provides Israel security for its own gas field nearby. So that went online just a few days ago. And despite Hezbollah threats that it would torpedo that drilling, the drilling has gone on uninterrupted, and that's also a benefit for Israel.
This is a historic deal because it's two states that are technically at war. Could this be the beginning of something new?
I believe it's a sign of pragmatism and prudence in a part of the world that those traits are oftentimes quite rare. But even Israeli officials are very sober about the broader implications of this agreement. It's a technical agreement. It's not likely that Israel and Lebanon will use this as a springboard for future peace talks, especially so long as the Hezbollah militant group, which is obviously beholden to Iran, wields veto power over Lebanese politics and over Lebanese security affairs.
You also say this sort of removes a threat or a point of tension between Israel and Hezbollah, but does it erase those tensions? Does it put it off permanently?
No, I don't believe so. Hezbollah is still very much opposed to Israel and Israel's existence, maintains a vast arsenal of missiles and rockets pointed at Israel and Israeli cities. So yes, it's a sign of pragmatism and prudence, especially since Hezbollah gave its assent to this agreement. But no, there are still proper territorial and border disputes. There are still issues of holy sites inside Israel and Jerusalem and the West Bank. So those will remain in place, unfortunately.
Israel and Lebanon have no diplomatic relations. They couldn't talk directly. They had to talk through the United States. Why do you think the United States was so interested in brokering this deal?
Well, I think first and foremost, it wanted to avoid any potential military escalation in the Middle East, and especially relating to Israel. Obviously, the close relationship between Israel and the U.S. Is quite important, especially for the Biden administration. And also, it was a sign for the Biden envoy, Amos Hochstein, that he could get a deal done where perhaps previous administrations had failed. And writ large, I think for Biden's foreign policy, it's a way to emphasize for the world, but especially Middle Eastern states, that the U.S. is still involved. For the U.S., it was a foreign policy victory for the Biden administration and a foreign policy victory in the Middle East, which, as we know, over the past 2 decades has been few and far between.
Neri Zilber, journalist and analyst based in Tel Aviv. Thank you very much.
My pleasure, John.
And now for the perspective from Lebanon, we're joined by Maya Jabaly, the Beirut-based Reuters bureau chief for Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. Maya, thanks for joining us. You just came from interviewing outgoing Lebanese President Michel Aoun. How is he talking about this deal?
Well, for this outgoing president, this is his crowning achievement of the 6 years that he has spent in office. And today, when we spoke to him, he reiterated that it was the product of indirect negotiations and it was not a peace deal with Israel. He did say for the domestic Lebanese audience as well that this is Lebanon's last chance for an economic recovery. So definitely the Lebanese are hoping for a financial windfall from the kind of the aftermath of this deal. And he reiterated as well the really important role, as he saw it, that Hezbollah has played in making sure that this deal actually came into force.
How significant is that?
I think on a political level, it is quite significant to see Hezbollah give a green light to this understanding, as they call it. But the Lebanese officials have been adamant that the two countries remain in a state of war, and this is not a peace deal.
It does remove a flashpoint between Lebanon and especially Hezbollah and Israel, but the tensions remain. Am I right?
Certainly. And it has been interesting to see outgoing President Michel Aoun as well describe this deal as a way to ensure that tensions don't flare up into full-scale war. I mean, he's said multiple times, including this morning when we spoke to him, that now you've got shared interests. If something happens on either side to mess up that deal or to lead to any kind of security incident, then both sides would lose.
Is this agreement sort of top of mind for Lebanese? Is this something a lot of people are aware of, and what's been the reaction?
I think it's certainly something that people are aware of, but like anything in Lebanon, people are split over how to react. You've got a lot of celebrations among, of course, people who are supporters of President Aoun. You've also got a more measured response from people who are looking at it from a technical perspective, where they're saying, actually, any exploration is going to take 12 to 18 months before we really know what is actually in these maritime blocks. So let's hold our horses here. Let's not be too celebratory at this stage, because we're not sure when we're actually going to see any kind of financial reward from this deal.
Give us a sense of what the economic problems are in Lebanon right now.
They are manifest. I mean, it's been 3 years since Lebanon entered its financial downfall, and over the last 3 years, you've seen the Lebanese pound lose over 95% of its value. You've seen more than 80% of Lebanon's population go under the poverty line. You've got families who are spending a vast majority of their day without electricity at home. Schools open and close because they don't have enough funds. And at this point, there really is no end in sight. You know, everyone's kind of asking, when do we hit rock bottom? Is there a rock bottom?
Maya Jabaly, the Reuters bureau chief for Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John.